NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang just gave an unbelievable interview, including some of his thoughts on Elon Musk, the new AMD and OpenAI deal, plus much, much more. Check this out.
Let's talk about vendor financing, because that has been something that has raised a lot of questions on Wall Street since you cut this deal with OpenAI. Yesterday, Bloomberg is reporting that you have a $2 billion in financing that you're going to be involved with xAI to help them with these same stories. But this idea of circular financing, your customers can't afford to buy these chips yet, so you're going to help them out with money along the way. That leads some people to think back to what happened with companies during the big buildup like a Lucent or a Nortel in the early days. Is this different, and if so, how?
Well, first of all, xAI, I'm super excited about the financing opportunity that they're doing. You know, the only regret I have about xAI, we're an investor already. The only regret I have is I didn't give him more money. You know, almost everything that Elon's part of, you really want to be part of as well. And he gave us the opportunity to invest in xAI. I'm just delighted by that. And so that's an investment into a really great future company, and I'm really excited about that. That's not vendor financing per se. But what's going on in the world versus what happened in 2000 is just dramatically different. You know, back then, as you recall, there were pets.com, hospitals.com, and all of the internet companies combined was, what, $30–40 billion in size? If you look at the hyperscalers now, that's where the first tranche of AI infrastructure is building. If you look at the AI, the hyperscalers, that's about $2.5 trillion of business that's already operating today. That business, that $2.5 trillion business, and the capex that goes underneath that is about, call it $500 billion. That transition from a classical CPU-based computing to now generative AI computing powered by GPUs, that transition is just starting. So we've got to build into $500 billion worth of capacity infrastructure that's already naturally growing by itself, and we're in the beginning phases of that. If you just look at NVIDIA's AI infrastructure business, you know, call it a couple of $100 billion so far, we're a couple of $100 billion into a multi-trillion-dollar build-out. So that's number one. The second part of it that's really unique is that we have a new generation of AI companies. The new AI companies like OpenAI and Anthropic and xAI and companies that are well, you know, Thinking Machine Labs from Mira and Ilya Sutskever's SSI and Misha's company Reflection. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of amazing AI model builders now. This generation of AI model builders, what's happened in the last several months, a transition happened that is really, really important. For the last several years, they've been generating tokens, you know, these AI tokens, basically at a loss. And the reason for that is because the early AI models they were super interesting, really captivated a lot of attention, but they weren't useful enough to pay for. The last several months, it's been very clear that the new technology is now reasoning, it's doing research. Before it answers a question, it goes on the web and studies other PDFs and websites. It can now use tools, generate information for you, and it creates responses that are really useful. I use it every day, to the point where now the tokens are profitable.
The question, though, is who is going to continue to pay for that build-out? Is it the big companies like a Procter & Gamble? Is it consumers who are going to do this? I mean, my doctor showed me the AI that he's using, and it's incredibly helpful, but there's still a question about whether he's going to pay for it or the company he works for is going to pay for it.
Well, hopefully both. I think there's the consumer part of it. You know, a lot of OpenAI customers are consumers, and they're paying for it. But the thing that's really cool is that the enterprise AI build-out that's happening now, my favorite enterprise AI service is Cursor. Cursor is an AI coder. And every one of our engineers, 100%, is now assisted by AI coders, and our productivity has gone up incredibly. And so you're now seeing enterprise AI companies like Cursor, OpenEvidence, I love Lovable. All of these companies are some of the fastest growing companies in the world, and they address enterprise. And so enterprise AI is here.
I wonder how you think about, Jensen, the ultimate destination where all this is actually building toward. I don't know, there was a post from David Conn, he's a Sequoia partner, this week saying, look, AGI is the only thing that can justify the volumes of capital spending right now, artificial general intelligence. At the same time, many of the model builders and experts are pushing out the date where that maybe is going to be achievable. Meantime, you're talking about annual generations of chips. How fast do they depreciate? We're putting all this capital in these data centers that it's just not clear, like, when we get to the end, or is it just a treadmill?
We are going to have incredibly profitable and incredibly useful AIs long before AGI. And for example, right now, Cursor AI.
Yeah.
You know, Cursor's AI software coder is incredibly useful. All of our engineers use it. We have some 40,000 engineers. Almost every one of them are going to use it, and they're loving it. And so
they're using it instead of something else, presumably, right? So these are displacing things.
Yeah, they're not. This is a brand new thing.
Yeah.
Remember, AI, unlike previous technologies are tools that humans use. Excel is a tool that humans use. A web browser is a tool that humans use. For the very first time, we have technology that can actually use tools by itself. And so Cursor uses, Visual C++, and and now we have Gemini agents that are able to use the browser and browse for groceries or destinations or book travel for you, and it can use tools by itself. So this is really quite an extraordinary thing. The tool industry is a few $1 trillion.
Yeah.
Tool user industry is $100 trillion. Which is the reason why everybody's so excited about the future of technology, because it could augment labor, it can increase the productivity of labor, and here at NVIDIA, it's increased our productivity tremendously.
You've already said you wish you could have bought more OpenAI and maybe invested more in XAI at this point. That implies that you don't think that this is all redundant. Because a lot of the players, if I read what Sam Altman says and the message he tries to convey, it's as if they're sprinting to try to stay ahead of everybody else because they think it's not going to be room for everybody necessarily who's trying to do something similar.
I think there's general intelligence, and I think there's specialized intelligence.
Yeah.
We love general. When I hire engineers, I like them to be generally intelligent, and that's a great thing. But once they come to NVIDIA, we make them highly specialized intelligent, so that they could build things that NVIDIA needs. And so I think the idea of specialized intelligence versus generalized intelligence will continue to happen. And where the real value for enterprises and companies is specialized intelligence. And where the value for consumers, general intelligence.
I just want to pause it there. In a moment, we'll come back to a second clip where Jensen talks about the new AMD and OpenAI deal. But first, NVIDIA's investments in customers like OpenAI and xAI represent strategic equity positions in high-potential companies, not risky vendor financing like the 2000s telecom bubble. When asked about vendor financing concerns and comparisons, Jensen emphasizes these are investments, not loans. Jensen's expressed enthusiasm about both investments and saying that his only regret is that he didn't give more money to xAI. Almost everything that Elon's a part of, you really want to be a part of as well. And on OpenAI, he says, my only regret is that we didn't invest more. The comparison to dot-com companies which went bust is natural, but it fundamentally misunderstands what NVIDIA is doing. In the early 2000s, telecom equipment vendors like Lucent and Nortel extended billions in loans to telecom carriers to buy their equipment. This was true vendor financing, loans that were really just ways to book revenue from customers who couldn't actually afford the equipment. When the telecom bubble burst, these loans defaulted and the vendors collapsed because their revenue was never real. NVIDIA's approach is different. They're not extending loans or vendor financing in the traditional sense. They're taking equity positions in customers as strategic investments. This distinction matters enormously because equity investors only make money if the company succeeds and grows in value. A vendor extending a loan makes money immediately through equipment sales, creating incentive to do bad deals. An equity investor only profits if the investment appreciates, aligning incentives for long-term success. Jensen's repeated expression of regret about not investing more reveals his genuine conviction. When a CEO says, my only regret is I didn't give them more money, that's not the language of someone doing desperate vendor financing to book revenue. That's an investor who believes they found exceptional opportunities and wishes they had larger positions. The quality of customers also matters. OpenAI is described as the most valuable startup company ever, with rapidly growing revenue that's now profitable at the token level. XAI is backed by Elon Musk, who has a track record of building multiple successful companies worth potentially up to $2 trillion collectively. These aren't speculative startups with no business model. They're well-positioned companies in a rapidly growing market led by proven executives. NVIDIA isn't financing weak customers who can't get their capital elsewhere. They're investing alongside other sophisticated investors in companies that are raising billions of dollars. Furthermore, these investments come with the strategic benefit beyond financial returns. By investing in OpenAI and XAI, NVIDIA gains deeper insight into their product roadmaps, technical requirements, and pain points. This helps NVIDIA design better products. They also strengthen their relationships with key customers, ensuring NVIDIA remains the preferred vendor as these companies scale.
So if you don't mind, maybe we can just run through some of these headlines and you can explain what's happening from your perspective.
I'd love to.
Okay, let's start with the deal that you cut first with OpenAI that you've talked a lot about, that was then followed up by this deal earlier this week with AMD and OpenAI. It's got a lot of people trying to figure out what the dynamics are of this industry. What do you think about it? Did you know about that deal before it was announced?
Not really, but our deal is very different than theirs. We've been working with OpenAI through Azure, Microsoft, and OCI, and CoreWeave, and so through third parties for quite a long time. In fact, in 2016, I delivered the world's very first AI supercomputer called DGX-1 to a startup, a nonprofit startup in San Francisco, and that company turned out to have been OpenAI. And so we've been working with them for quite a long time. The OpenAI partnership is an addition to what we're already doing with them on the cloud. All of the cloud contracts, we're going to continue to execute on all that. But our partnership with them is quite unique in the sense that this is the first time we're going to sell directly to them. Until now, we've been only selling through the clouds. And so we're going to keep doing that. But the thing that's really exciting is that now, by selling directly to them, we could help prepare them for a day when they're self-hosted hyperscaler. And our agreement basically entails us selling entire systems and infrastructure to them. We're the only company in the world today that really focuses on building the entire AI infrastructure, from CPUs to GPUs to networking chips and switches of all kinds and all the software stacks that go along with that. And so we're quite a unique partner for them to be able to do this.
I guess the question becomes, it's great for you to sell directly to them, but they don't have the money to buy it at this point. Is that why the deal was structured the way it is, where you'll get a stake in OpenAI over time?
They don't have the money yet.
Yeah.
And the way that it's going to happen, for every gigawatt of AI factories, you're probably going to need about $50 to $60 billion for the land-powered shell and all the computing and networking and all that, everything that goes along with that. And they're going to have to raise that money through, first of all, the revenues, which is growing exponentially, equity or debt, and they gave us the opportunity to invest alongside other investors when the time comes. And so it's not something we have to do, but it's something that they're giving us the opportunity to do, and I would love to do. One of the things that we did, we invested in OpenAI early on. My only regret is that we didn't invest more. I mean, this is the most profitable, the most valuable startup company ever. And so this is a great opportunity.
You mentioned that your deal is very different from AMD's. AMD is in a situation where they're basically giving away a big chunk of their company to be able to be a partner with OpenAI and sell them some of their goods. Is that how you read it?
Yeah, I saw the deal. It's imaginative. It's unique and surprising. Considering they were so excited about their next generation product, I'm surprised that they would give away 10% of the company before they even built it. And so, anyhow, it's clever, I guess.
Yeah, I wondered the same thing. And Lisa Su, who, by the way, is a distant cousin of yours,
yeah,
right?
she's terrific.
At AMD.
Yeah, she's terrific.
The way they've set this up, though, of giving it away, they're also making some big assumptions that their chips are going to be able to compete with your chips that are coming out down the road. Do you think that's the case?
Well, our chips are quite special, and we're running really fast. We're the only company in the world today that builds all of the chips inside an AI infrastructure. And today, back when we first started, 5 years ago even, an Ampere chip or a Hopper chip is just one chip. Today, if you want to build one of these AI supercomputers, it takes a whole bunch of different types of chips to get the performance out of it because, Moore's law, the transistor itself is really slowing down. And we want to create those X factors of performance increase every single year. And we're delivering these new systems every single year. And every year it's multiple times faster than the last generation. In order for us to do that, we have to optimize the entire AI infrastructure. That supercomputer is the most complex computer the world's ever made. And we optimize across all of that, design new chips every year. So one chip alone is not probably going to be able to deliver the type of results we do. But anyways, they're a really good company and we take them very seriously and we just kind of have to keep running fast.
That was another great clip from Jensen, and it shows how the AI race is getting more heated every day. AMD's deal structure with OpenAI shows an aggressive and creative way to compete against NVIDIA's dominance in AI infrastructure. Jensen describes AMD's deal as imaginative, it's unique and surprising, and notes they're giving away 10% of the company for the OpenAI partnership. Jensen mentions being surprised they would give away 10% of the company before they even built it, referring to AMD's next generation products, the MI450 series. But this reveals a smart competitive strategy, not weakness. By offering equity instead of just competing on price or chip performance, AMD is making a bold bet that ties their success directly to OpenAI's success. This is actually very clever. If OpenAI becomes the dominant AI company, that 10% stake could be worth far more than profits from normal hardware sales. This approach also solves a real problem for OpenAI: money. As Jensen mentioned, building gigawatt AI factories requires billions, tens of billions, even hundreds of billions of dollars that they don't have yet. AMD's equity deal helps OpenAI save cash while still getting top hardware. OpenAI's AMD equity deal helps them improve their balance sheet while still getting top hardware they require. This makes AMD a far more attractive partner than NVIDIA in this specific situation. It's a financial innovation that creates value for both companies. Doing this before they even build the next generation product actually shows confidence from both companies. AMD is betting their upcoming chips will be good enough that once OpenAI uses them, they will want to keep using them. AMD also understands that beating NVIDIA's dominance requires unusual tactics. NVIDIA has the complete infrastructure advantage, the ecosystem, and existing customers. Competing only on chip specs and pricing won't work because customers are locked into NVIDIA's full system. But by offering equity deals, AMD creates a completely different value proposition. They're saying, we'll be your partner, not just your vendor, and our success is tied to yours. This could appeal to AI companies who worry that NVIDIA holds too much power over their supply chain. This deal also gives AMD something incredibly valuable: real-world experience with the most advanced AI company in the world. Working directly with OpenAI means AMD gets immediate feedback on what works and what doesn't, helping them improve their products faster. NVIDIA built their lead partly by working closely with AI researchers. AMD is trying to copy that advantage by securing the most important AI customer. Lisa Su, AMD's CEO, has consistently shown smart strategic thinking at AMD, turning around the company against Intel and now challenging NVIDIA. Ultimately, the market will decide if this strategy works. If you found this video of any value, please consider hitting subscribe. Cheers.